And good morning, I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk. We're about to take you live to London, Ohio. That's where the Peace Officers Training Facility is for the state of Ohio. Today is the annual Peace Officer Memorial Ceremony, and unfortunately, as we remember all the women and men that have been lost in the line of duty, there will be two from Northeast Ohio that will be remembered today. We have lost two officers in the line of duty in the last year. Jamison Ritter from Cleveland and Jacob Durbin from Euclid. A very unfortunate situation, but today is the day to remember those who sacrificed their lives to protect all of us here in the state of Ohio. Let's take you live now to the ceremony being held in London, Ohio.
Please rise for the arrival of the family members and the fallen and the agency representatives, if you're able. Please remain standing as we prepare for the processional. Please remain standing for the national anthem and invocation.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, nor the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, then I yet wail o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I'd like to invite Reverend Eddie Parker to offer the invocation.
I invite those of you who are so inclined to join me as I invoke God's blessings on this ceremony. Dear God, you are called by a multiplicity of names, and we live with a multiplicity of uncertainties. But there's one thing we are certain of. There is a power that is greater than ourselves, and you have made us what we are. And what we have, you gave us. Where we are, you have brought us, and what we know, you have taught us. So before we go further, we pause now and say thank you for another day. Thank you for another breath, for another chance. Thank you for all those who have gathered today. Thank you for our Attorney General's leadership with passion and purpose. And now, God, we intentionally take this moment to invoke your presence as we remember our fallen law enforcement officers and their families. It is written, very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person and possibly for a good person. Yet these officers fulfilled their oath and made the ultimate sacrifice to protect and serve. We are thankful for their courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to justice. Dear God, as we gathered here today, juxtaposed amid the eternal flame and the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy, we confront the paradox of our tears of grief, gratitude for those who have fallen, and our prayers of safety for those yet in sacrificial service. As we glaze at the eternal flame, help us to always honor the legacy of our faithful, fearless, fallen officers. And both and at once, please give their families strength to endure, comfort to heal, and hope for each tomorrow. And now, God, we implore you to be the unseen guest during this solemn ceremony. Stand with us, stay with us, sustain us, and strengthen us. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. This we humbly pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Parker. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, families, friends, and fellow officers, we gather here today with heavy hearts and solemn purpose. On this sacred ground, under the flag they served and protected, we come together to honor the brave men and women of law enforcement who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to the people of Ohio. This year, our gathering carries an especially heavy weight. Just days ago, we lost Hamilton County Deputy Larry Henderson by an intentional act of violence, a deputy whose service, bravery, and dedication to his community will always be remembered. The pain is still fresh. The shock is still real. Let us pause for a moment of silence in honor of Deputy Henderson. Thank you. Today we mourn the heroes on this wall. We mourn friends, family members, protectors, and public servants who gave everything in service to others. This ceremony is not only a remembrance, but a promise that their courage will never be forgotten, that their names will forever echo in our hearts, and that their legacy will continue to light the path of justice, duty, and selfless service. On behalf of Attorney General Dave Yost and the commissioners of the Peace Officer Training Academy who are with us here today, I welcome all of you to the 37th Annual Fallen Officer Memorial. I am Thomas Quinlan, the Executive Director of the Ohio Peace Officer Training Commission. 25 years ago, on May 11, 2000, this memorial was dedicated and serves as a moving tribute for all those who gather here in person to recognize our fallen officers with all the respect, honor, and pageantry we bestow upon them. Behind every badge was a story, a family, a life devoted to protecting others. Today we stand with their loved ones, the parents, spouses, children, colleagues, and friends who carry both the pride of their heroism and the pain of their loss. Your sacrifice is not unseen. Your strength is not unnoticed. You have been called upon to bear a special burden, and while there is no ceremony nor salute that can lessen this burden, we join together to honor the courage and the sacrifice of the 840 men and women whose names have been etched into this granite. These peace officers are forever connected by an unbreakable bond of valor. We bring attention to the 4 names being added since last year's memorial, along with 2 historical additions from 1927 and 1897. Deputy Marshal John Sellers was shot and killed in 1897. His great-grandsons, James and Richard Willis, are here with us today. Let us now take this time to reflect, to remember, and to recommit ourselves to the values these officers upheld: honor, integrity, and unwavering courage. May their memory be a blessing, and may their service never be forgotten. It is now my privilege to introduce you to the Chair of the Ohio Peace Officer Training Commission, Sheriff Vernon Stanforth.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. And on behalf of the Ohio Peace Officers Training Commission, it is my honor to be here to pay tribute to our fallen officers. And I must confess that in preparing for this privilege, I've done my best to find the words that might offer at least a shred of comfort and condolence. Even just a phrase or two that might briefly ease the pain that you shoulder day to day. But words are insufficient at this time. No matter how carefully chosen, no matter how well intended, their power to console only goes so far. So let me simply say this: to the spouse, to the children, to the parents, to the brothers and sisters, to the extended family members, and to the friends and the colleagues of our fallen officers, I grieve with you. Everyone gathered today grieves with you. If you look around, you'll see eyes filled with sorrow and sympathy. And beyond those eyes, within those sentiments, are the bonds of compassion that unite us in our humanity. I pray that you will feel that connection today and tomorrow and always. I pray that you appreciate the gratitude that Ohioans have for your loved ones and for all of Ohio's law enforcement officers. And I pray that you find peace. This annual ceremony honors Ohio's peace officers who have given their lives through the generations. In fact, 2 of the men recognized today, State Game Warden Harvey Bonbeck and Shelby Deputy Marshal John Sellers died more than 90 years ago. Unfortunately, most of the details about their lives and their service have been lost to time. Our 4 other honorees today died much more recently, and it is to their memory that we naturally devote most of our attention today. Those fallen officers: Euclid Police Officer Jacob Durbin, Pickaway County Detective Rex Emmerich, Butler County Corrections Lieutenant David Reynolds, and Cleveland Police Officer Jameson Ritter. The age of these men vary widely. So did the circumstances of their deaths. Officers Durbin and Ritter, both in their 20s, were murdered in separate cases last year as they pursued armed suspects. Detective Emmerich and Lieutenant Reynolds felt COVID. Rex was a friend. He was a mentor to many of my generation of law enforcement. So bear with me. Unfortunately, we have had over 400 officers in the United States die of the virus as the rest of the world went into quarantine. Despite the differences, what these men had in common was they died in the line of duty. That's a word you'll hear often today, duty. It's one of those words that we use a lot, but rarely take time to reflect on. At its heart, duty is about responsibility and obligation. And in the case of our fallen officers, duty specifically meant a responsibility and an obligation to protect and care for the people of our communities. That's a noble concept, a biblical concept even. The idea that we are each other's keeper. I suppose for some people, the idea that we have a responsibility to each other seems like a notion from a bygone era, something better suited for a Sunday school class than the real world. After all, we live in a selfie age, don't we? An age of social media, an age obsessed with likes and self-promotion. It's an age that encourages selfishness. It's an age, I'm afraid, where concern for self too often leads to indifference toward others. But not for the men we honor today. For them, duty was a commitment to serve others. And fulfilling that commitment, they devoted their lives not to personal gain, but to the common good. In this way alone, these men set themselves apart from most people who ever walk the earth. Shaped by humility, selflessness, and a clear sense of right and wrong, they answered a noble call that few others hear, let alone have the courage to accept or the ability to undertake. In taking on that duty, they accepted a life filled with danger and tragedy. In taking on that duty, they agreed to a code of conduct that insisted on honesty, integrity, and compelled them to serve with compassion and respect. By their very nature, and in every respect, these were good men who wanted to bring more good to the world. Simply put, they did the right thing, the right way, and for the right reason. And doing their duty, they helped uphold the principles and the ideals of the rule of law, the glue that holds a society together. But at a more basic level, in doing their duty, they gave of themselves for the benefit of their neighbors and the welfare of their communities. That's how we should remember them and why we will always honor them as heroes. In closing, in 1805, the British fleet was about to face off against the combined forces of France and Spain. From this flagship, Admiral Nelson signaled battle orders to his fleet, then added one last sentence to the message. England expects that every man will do his duty. 2 centuries later, Officer Durbin, Detective Emmerich, Lieutenant Reynolds, and Officer Ritter did their duty for the people of Ohio. By their example and in their honor, may we always be inspired to do ours. Thank you.
We'll now memorialize the fallen officers. Sheriff Stanforth, will you come up for that?
It doesn't get easier. We will now memorialize our fallen officers. Detective Rex A. Emmerich, Pickaway County Sheriff's Office. End of watch, January 26, 2021. Well, as Rex said, I read too fast. Okay. As they are preparing to do whatever they're going to do, and they will do an awesome job when they do it. But it is an honor for them to bring out the flag for each one of our fallen officers. But in lieu of that, in timing, It is my great honor to introduce to you, as our next speaker, the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, David Yost.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today. I became Ohio's Attorney General in January of 2019. Every year since then, I have spoken at this memorial, and nothing I do as Attorney General is more important than this event. The rule of law is what holds our society together. It's what guarantees the safety of our families, our security, our communities, and our economy. It is the foundation, the core, the single most important guarantee of our happiness and prosperity. Without the rule of law, we would live in chaos and violence, fear and destitution. And without the brave men and women who enforce the rule of law itself would not exist. And that's why nothing that I do in this office is more important than being here today, to recognize the indispensable role that law enforcement officers play in our lives and to honor those who've lost their lives because of their commitment to this noble and sacred purpose. Each time I've come here since 2019, I've talked about their courage and their sacrifice and talked about the grief that we all share. I've talked about loss and the deep wounds inflicted on the families of these heroes. But there's one thing I've never talked about at these memorials, and that's my anger. My anger at the tragic loss of life that is represented by the hundreds of names on this wall. My anger that every year we add more names to this wall. My anger that this memorial needs to exist at all. And I'm also angry about a society that often demands more sympathy and more justice for criminals than it does for the officers who were injured or murdered trying to prevent those crimes. I'm angered by a society in which action by an officer who has to make a split-second life or death decision gets national attention and criticism, while the death of an officer in the line of duty barely warrants a mention in the local newspaper or the local television broadcast. Today, I want to talk to the people of Ohio. I traditionally talk to all of you, the law enforcement family, in our moment of grief, to remember, to celebrate the lives and the incredible, noble virtue of those that have gone before us. But today, I have a few things that I'd like you to hear, but that I want the people of Ohio to hear. Law enforcement officers deserve more from us than they get. We demand that they be at their best, even when the people they deal with are at their worst. And then we condemn them when they fall short of the perfection that we demand of them, a level of perfection that none of us has ever achieved in our own lives and our own jobs. And this double standard makes me angry. Because just like all double standards, it is unfair, unjust. It's unacceptable. So today, let us grieve, let us mourn our losses, let us praise courage and sacrifice. But let us also acknowledge our anger, not pretend that it doesn't exist, because it is a righteous anger, and it has its place in this memorial. As in most years, all but one actually, we have new names to add to this wall. A year ago Saturday, Euclid Patrolman Jacob Durbin, shot and killed in the line of duty while responding to a report of aggravated menacing. 2 months later, while the rest of the nation was celebrating the 4th of July holiday, Cleveland police officer Jamison Ritter, fatally shot while trying to arrest a suspect sought in a previous shooting. In addition, we recognized 2 more of those who died in 2021 from COVID, Detective Rex Emmerich in Pickaway County Sheriff's Office and Lieutenant David Reynolds from the Butler County Sheriff's Office. And we continue our practice of reclaiming the memory of officers who fell in the distant past, Marshal John Sellers of Shelby Department and Harvey Monbeck of the Ohio Department of Wildlife. Let us offer our love and prayers to these brave men and to the families and communities that they left behind. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the idea of the 7 stages of grief, and you may recall that the final stage is acceptance. But when it comes to peace officers being killed in the line of duty, I don't think we should ever get to acceptance. Of course, we have to accept that their deaths occurred and to move forward with our lives, particularly those who loved them so dearly. I am deeply saddened for your loss. But today I implore my fellow Ohioans that we should never accept that these tragedies are bound to happen, that it is inevitable. How sad is it that we schedule this day every spring because we know at least one officer is going to give his or her life to save the lives of others and to protect our way of life? Why is that acceptable? I've grown weary of adding names to this wall during my tenure as Attorney General. I don't want to see another law enforcement officer die in the line of duty in Ohio or anywhere else in this nation. We had 2 officers murdered here in Ohio in 2024. Since these records have been kept, there's only been 1 year where nobody died in the line of duty, 1999. That should be the standard. That should be what we accept. But instead, for the past 26 years, we've lost one officer after another. I had planned to issue a challenge for 2025 that we would lose no one this year, but that dream came to an end last Friday when Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Henderson was intentionally run down by a motorist. My fellow Ohioans, the violence needs to stop. The violence on our streets needs to stop. The violence in our homes and schools needs to stop. Violence cannot be an acceptable part of our way of life in Ohio, in any community, urban or rural. We all know that law enforcement officers cannot do it alone. It has to involve everyone, especially parents. Teach your children that when a police officer says stop, you stop. When an officer says, show me your hands, you let him see your hands. You do as instructed. And teach them not to point a weapon at anyone, but especially not the police. Because doing these things is how we end violent confrontations, teaching our children. And that is how we ultimately could stop adding names to this wall. Circumstances our officers operate under every day are extraordinary. Yet they perform their duty, even when many of us probably wouldn't. Here's what I mean. On days that some people in our communities shout expletives at them, curse them out, swing their fists, hurl bottles or cans at them, or my new favorite, frozen water bottles, which end up weighing and hitting about like a brick and then By the time you collect the evidence, it's just a water bottle. Our law enforcement officers do their jobs anyway. They follow their training. They focus on putting their personal emotions aside and protect us, as difficult as that must be. I've never been a peace officer, so I haven't experienced it, but I think it would be pretty easy to become provoked and lash out. And yet, thanks to their training, their experience, most of all, their character, our officers remain professional. They know the calling a peace officer requires a higher standard of behavior. They know what their duty is, to protect us even when we might not act like we deserve it. It's time, Ohio. It's time to stop treating the men and women in uniform as the enemy. It's time to speak up when someone demeans an entire class of public servants, people who put their lives on the line day in and day out so we can feel safe going to work, going home, going to a place of worship, going out to have fun or attend a community event. Our sheriffs, our deputies, our rank and file officers, they deserve better. They don't deserve scorn, but praise and thanks. Because every day they put on the badge, they know it might be the last. Public safety doesn't happen by luck or magic. I've spoken to hundreds of police officers and troopers and deputies during my career, probably thousands. All of them understand the risks of their job, even though they hope that no harm comes to them. And what I've heard from them is that they took up this line of work because they felt a genuine calling. One told me, I wanted to know at the end of my life that what I did mattered. It might not make a big difference, but that what I've done has mattered to someone, somewhere. Every single one of you has done things that matter, and you continue to do them. I admire and respect and thank you for that. So, Ohio, I ask you to join me in this challenge. Let's make this the last 6 names we have to add to this wall. This circle of heroes is a promise carved in stone. The promise is you will not be forgotten. But rather than see another name added, wouldn't it be great to close this circle once and for all? God bless all of you who serve. God bless the families who have given so much and borne such a burden on behalf of the rest of society. God bless Ohio. God bless America.
Thank you, General Yost. The flags are now prepared, and I'd invite Sheriff Stanforth back up to memorialize the fallen officers. Do you need this?
We will now memorialize our fallen officers. Detective Rex A. Emmerich, Pickaway County Sheriff's Office, end of watch, January 26, 2021. Lieutenant David W. Reynolds, Butler County Sheriff's Office. End of watch, September 30th, 2021. Officer Jacob Durbin, Euclid Police Department. End of watch, May 11th, 2024. Officer Jameson Ritter, City of Cleveland, Division of Police. End of watch, July 4th, 2024.
Please rise for the firing battery salute, the sounding of taps, and the presentation of colors.
And so after just, day and a half, basically, and here we are.
It does make you feel like there's a wonderful sense of the noise stopped, the cameras went off, they went into the chapel, they prayed, and the Holy Spirit spoke. I mean, it just really gives us a great sense of confidence.
And indeed, this hope that's being realized, that we have a new shepherd, so to speak, someone to take on the reins there and to accompany us on this journey, our life journey. And it will be fascinating to see, as I say, you see the central lodge of St. Peter's Basilica, you see that's where the new pope will be appearing, as he traditionally does, to be announced that Abemus Papa, that we have a pope, and then the big surprise will be as he proceeds towards the central loggia, and we see who that cardinal is, now dressed in white.
Well, and for many people, they might be thinking, okay, why is there this long wait, as you mentioned, Thaddeus? Why is there this long wait in between when we see the white smoke and when the...
Right to live pictures of the Vatican. This is live. We do have a new pope. There is celebration in St. Peter's Square in the Vatican, in Vatican City. Let's just listen in for just a couple of seconds. As you can see, the remnants of white smoke there coming from the Sistine Chapel, where the more than 130 cardinals have come to a decision. And remember, the decision takes a 2/3 vote plus one. In just a day and a half and 3 ballots, we have a new pope to lead the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. There is now celebration beginning all over the world, and now even more speculation. Who will be the successor to Pope Francis, who died obviously April 21st, one day after making an appearance on Easter, and the thousands of people at St. Peter's Square in pure jubilation seeing the white smoke come from the Sistine Chapel. It is a day to celebrate for Catholics. We have seen tears, we have seen cheers, and of course, everyone now anticipating the new pope who has been elected. The doors of the Sistine Chapel